They don't want you to know this. But Chevrolet's first big block V8 wasn't the 409 or even the legendary 427. It was a strange, short-lived monster, born in the shadows of Detroit's horsepower wars, and terrified Ford and Chrysler so badly they fought to get it outlawed. Its name? The Chevrolet 348 Turbo Thrust, an engine that disappeared almost overnight, but secretly fathered some of the greatest V8s in history. This is the buried story of the 348, the mid-1950s. America was booming. Highways stretched across the nation. Cars grew bigger, heavier, flashier. But Chevrolet had a problem. Their small block V8s, the 265 and 283, were good, but not enough. Ford was rolling out big FE engines. Chrysler had Hemis that ruled the quarter mile. Chevy's full-size cars, heavyweights gasping for power. So in 1958, Chevrolet struck back with something radical, a brand new W-Series big block, 348 cubic inches. They called it the Turbo Thrust. It wasn't just an engine, it was a declaration. Chevrolet was entering the big block game. The 348 didn't look like anything else in Detroit. Instead of wedge heads or hemispherical chambers, Chevy engineers tilted the valves at an angle. They called it a porcupine head design. And here's the kicker. The combustion chamber wasn't in the head at all. It was carved into the cylinder itself. The result? Torque, mountains of it. Perfect for hauling trucks, but shockingly strong at high RPM too. It looked odd. Mechanics joked it was backwards. But on the street and strip, the 348 earned respect fast. Chevy offered it mild at 250 horsepower, or wild, a triple carb setup with 315 horses. And when racers got their hands on it, things got out of control. By 1959, the 348 was storming NASCAR, and suddenly Ford and Chrysler weren't laughing anymore. In the hands of legends like Junior Johnson, the 348 was brutal out of the corners. And with Smokey Yunick tuning, it became a nightmare for rivals. Ford cried foul. NASCAR rewrote rulebooks. Engines were shuffled. Politics took over. And just like that, the 348 was painted as too radical, too dangerous. Sound familiar? It wouldn't be the last time a Chevy engine was accused of being too powerful for the rules. While NASCAR officials bickered, the streets told a different story. Drop a 348 with triple deuces into a Chevy Impala, and suddenly you had a 2-ton family car that could humiliate Thunderbirds and Mopars. Chevrolet was selling performance to the people. Drag racers loved it. Hot rodders swapped it. Even boat racers strapped turbo thrusts into their hulls. The 348 was everywhere, and that was the problem. Chevy had built a monster too good, too soon. Chevrolet knew the 348 had potential, but the competition was climbing fast. So in 1961, they pushed it further. The W block stretched into the 409 cubic inch big block. Suddenly, horsepower jumped to 360, then 409. The 348, quietly pushed aside, not banned, not recalled, just erased from brochures. But the bloodline lived on. The 348th may have faded, but its child, the 409th, became a cultural legend. When the Beach Boys sang, "She's Real Fine, My 409, they weren't just singing about a car. They were cementing Chevrolet's big block mystique in music history. Drag strips echoed with W block thunder, Impala, Bel Air, Biscayne, all tearing down quarter miles with 409 power. But every one of those engines traced back to the forgotten 348. Chevy didn't stop there. The W block evolved into the Mark IV big block. The 427 arrived, powering Corvettes, Camaros, even conquering Le Mans. Then came the 454th, the LS6 Chevelle SS, putting down horsepower numbers that bordered on insanity. Every one of these monsters owed their DNA to that strange tilted valve 348. But while the legacy grew, the father was left in the shadows. Then came the 1970s. Oil crisis, insurance crackdowns, emissions. The big block era collapsed. By the late 70s, Chevrolet's mighty engines were gone from muscle cars. And when enthusiasts look back, they remembered the 409, the 427, the 454, but almost never the 348. It was like the engine had been buried alive. Today, the 348 is a ghost. Collectors chase 409s. Restorers brag about LS6 Chevelle. Tuners build LS swaps with 1,000 horsepower. But without the 348, none of them would exist. It was the engine that taught Chevrolet how to build big blocks, the blueprint for decades of dominance, the forbidden first step in a dynasty. And here's the question: why did Chevrolet kill the 348 so quickly? Why push the narrative that the 409 was the first real big block? Why erase the engine that started it all? Some say it was marketing, others, politics, NASCAR pressure, GM's corporate rulebook, or maybe Chevy didn't want the world to know just how radical their first big block really was. Either way, the 348 became the ghost engine of Chevy history. So the next time you hear someone brag about a Chevy 409, or a brutal 427, or the king of the streets, the 454 LS6, remember this: none of them would exist without the forgotten 348 turbo thrust, the engine Detroit tried to bury, but whose heartbeat still echoes in every Chevy big block and every LS engine tearing up the streets today. But here's the question: do you think Chevrolet deliberately buried the 348 story, or was it just lost to history? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed uncovering this hidden chapter of muscle car history, hit that like button, subscribe for more untold automotive history, and join me next time as we dig up another engine they don't want you to remember.